So hello there, folks.
Hi there.
It's finally another episode of Würfelcast, and it's it's episode 65 already.
Fabulous.
So yeah, it's somewhat a good sign that we're still here after 65. That's a pension. All right. So, but today's episode is as usual. We're going to talk about some games, some components, etc. And the topic of the day is top 10 historical games or historically themed games or whatever we chose as our games for the list.
We'll see how we do there.
Yes, we'll get to it as we go. But I think without further ado, let's just start with the first topic: recent plays. And
All right.
Kyle, why don't you start and give me a hint on what you've been playing?
A hint? Or just want me to tell you?
You can
Um,
tell me as well.
I got a game in the mail a couple of weeks ago. It was one from a Kickstarter, but I hadn't gotten it on the Kickstarter, but then I felt bad and I did it on the pre-order. Uh,
Hmm.
it's kind of a themeless Euro game with a bit of a theme kind of pasted on the top. The game is called Carnegie.
Okay. Karna.
Carnegie, like the famous steel factory owner. Um, and it's sort of themed loosely around his life, but not really. What you what you're doing in this game is trying to get the most points. It's a
I
straight
see.
out grind out the points Euro game.
Mm,
Uh, what's
wow.
interesting in the game though is, and I don't know if you'll be able. So that's the board. The board is just okay. But what there is there's this other track, and I don't know if you'll be able to find a picture of it. But the way the game is always going to be 20 turns, and it's there on the left. If you see on the left of the board, there's that weird looking track there.
I got it. I'll
Yeah.
search for it.
Well, anyway, so there are four rows of 5 spots. There you go. And each turn, you're going to select one of these actions and advance its marker over. And then that will trigger an event, which is usually some sort of income. You'll be able to bring your workers back from one region and get income, provided you have some there. Or it'll trigger a donation, which is basically purchasing an end game scoring condition. Neither of those is very exciting, but the game itself, the game when you put it all together, is really a very interesting experience. And I've played it a lot lately, actually.
Hmm.
So what you're doing is you're sort of balancing. So there's only 4 action choices, but each time you trigger an action, you've got buildings on your board, and all the buildings are going to have one of those 4 action symbols. And so you're going to trigger all of the buildings that have that particular symbol on them. So part of the game is buying the right buildings to make sure that you're getting the symbols you want. You also have those slider bars that you can see that you're pulling out. Those are pulled out by one of the actions. And then once you've pulled them out, you can take those discs out and put them into the cities on the board. And that unlocks income. But again, one important point of the income is just because there's income in a region doesn't mean anything. You actually have to take your workers and move them usually out of the rooms in your factory and send them out to those spots, or else you get nothing in income. And so you have to pay attention to which regions are going to be activated when. And so you're making a decision not only about what you want to do, but about what event you want to occur. And then also you're looking at what other players are able to do, because everyone will take all of those actions. You'll do it first, but the other players will follow. And so you're looking at other people and seeing, okay, well, they don't have anything in the construction right now, so this might be a better time for me to take a construction action because only I'm going to benefit from it. And then there's
Hmm.
also an action where you have to move the people around your factory so that they're in the different rooms. It's a very interesting logistical puzzle and a really interesting game. It's one of the better of the dry Euro variety of game that's come out in a while. I was really taken by this. I don't love how it looks. I mean, that's a stylistic choice, but I love how it works together. It's a really fantastic game, and an interesting one
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
unlike anything else.
Okay. Yeah. you know, to use your Euro game. Uh, I mean,
It is,
it might
but
be interesting.
I think you would find that it feels unlike anything else. This seems like actually the type of
Mm.
typical Euro game that you would enjoy.
Yeah, it's EN2. It's fine. Queened Games. I've played several of their games. They're good, good company. I mean, they do some. Well, what does no? So he's done. Oh yeah, Black
He did
Angel.
Brussels, right?
Notable games. Brussels not on the list. Carson City, which I
Oh,
didn't like.
Carson City, which
Uh,
I do like. I thought, who did
Black Angel. I
Brussels?
like
That
Black Angel. Yeah, and
okay.
Kinkopolis. Okay. Mm-hmm. Royal Palace. I don't know that one. Kinkopolis is the one I want to try. So yeah, yeah. All
Okinkopolis
right.
is surprisingly good too. I was reluctant to try it, and then I got the new edition and really was quite enamored with it. So
Yeah. All right. So, but speaking of a Euro game, so I also tried one of the Euro games that I brought from US back in February. Finally,
okay,
and I've been getting to them, but this one is an Asian design, and as you know, their designs tend to be on a kind of a different vibe in a sense that the logic that I have with most of the Euro games doesn't really apply. It's not as intuitive at first when you play it. And this game is Formosa T. If
okay.
you've played it,
I have not. It did not look interesting.
but but honestly, it is. And I
Okay,
was like, I was. It is heavy in a sense. I wouldn't say rules wise, but it's, as I said, it's not as intuitive as many Euro games are. But that's interesting because it feels different. It feels like something fresh, something I haven't played before. And in this game, so you are collecting tea leaves here on the left by taking all of the same color from one pad or all of the different colors, or
okay,
so you can mix and match. Then you have this kind of a, if I can find the board. Basically, you have your own board. You're gonna put your leaves in the board in a basket. As you can see here, this is the
okay,
basket, and it has some capacity. It's 6 cubes at most. Then eventually, when you take some of the processing action of a certain tea, and there's oolong tea, black tea, and green tea. So you have to process each tea differently. And when you take the action, you move the tea leaves to the factory. Then you want to dry them out of water so they become a better quality tea. So you do all of that. You move them to warehouse. You can add the scent to it, the flavor to it. So you can, make a flavored tea as well down there. And basically, it's all coming down to different points. It's rather thematic, to be honest. And
okay.
but yeah, you can basically make a tea, put it in a warehouse, and then sell it for the contracts. Or and you can see the different contracts really easy. Just give out the cubes and get
Mm-hmm.
get money, not money points. But it depends on what quality of the tea you give away. If for example you have some cubes from the normal tea and some cubes from the fine tea, if at least one of the cubes is normal tea, then you get less points because it's not the best quality tea, whatever. And there's the crappy tea as well you can sell. I get few points, but you can always use them. There are different tracks and things where you can use them as such. And this kind of a progression thing also progresses your, if you process the tea, you also progress in technology. You get those little tokens which help you. Some of them are one-time use, like for example, you can sell for free. Basically, it's without a worker, because in this game you use workers, and some of the workers are usual workers like farmers, and then some of them are like tea masters. And both tea masters and farmers can collect the leaves, but only tea masters can process the tea because they know the technology. And you move up on those, which is, it's really hard to explain, but you move up on the tracks on the right side, and you get the benefits from them. You basically, the dehydration, deoxidation, whatever, like different processing things they are written there if we take it thematically, but whatever, uh, but eventually you get to the last spot where you evaluate the tea, and that's how you get the tea from the factory into the warehouse. And this whole process on how you dry out the tea, so you when you evaluate it, it becomes the finest tea, because it's not only like, when you, as you saw the boards, it's not only if you have every tea leaf on a zero spot, like it's totally dried, that you get the finest tea. You have to add some flavor or scent to it, at least 2 cubes or stuff like that. Then you get this kind of a fine quality tea, and all this, and then you can go and sell. You can sell at the domestic market, basically moving up the other track, getting some things. And when you move up the technology track, you get points at the end of the game for some of the contracts that involve that particular tea. And you can also, what you can do, you get these technology tiles, which you can use uh, again and again, eventually at the factory to dry out tea leaves. So there's also events, which are really cool. The events are totally open. Let's say for 2 players, we play 6 rounds. All of the events are up there. You can see what happens at the beginning, what happens at the end. And the events are different each game. So you shuffle, you get only a few of them out. And they also have some of the flavor text to them, and how things were in that. I think it's a Taiwanese thing, or the Daocheng region, stuff like that. So
Okay.
yeah, and what tea leaves you take, what not, because there's also the weather tiles, and the weather tiles, they basically, there's a rain tile. So if you take from the rain column, the tea leaves are very wet. You have to dry them out. You know. Then if you take from the sunny, the tea leaves are uh, totally dried. But you don't always want to take all the zeros, because some of the spots, they give you the opportunity to flavor the tea leaves, or process the tea leaves that are more wet or stuff like that. So all of these is not intuitive at all. Like,
No,
I
doesn't
mean,
sound like it.
but that's the cool thing. Once we got used to that, after like half a game, we're like, okay, now we're getting what we need to do. Then it became really interesting when to move where, because you have the limited capacity in your initial basket. You cannot take more than 6. You have to think when to take, when to process, when to move from factory to warehouse, etc. And things. Oh, so move up that track so I can get the technology, which gives me this thing, so I can chain react the other thing. All of that. Also, there are 2 advanced rules. Remember, one of them was something with the setup. The other one are the special people, like special abilities. I played only once, but I
Okay.
felt, and then I looked at them after the game. I don't feel like they are all balanced.
Oh.
Just a feeling. When I look at them, and when I played the game, I realized, okay, so it doesn't sound balanced, because here it's really easy. It's really straightforward for you to get a ton of points. And with that character, I have to be precise, and the situation must be right. Like, okay, so if they're all would be situational, yes, but one of them is less situational, then it becomes more powerful, because it's so straightforward. You just go there, you do that, you take that. So it's an advanced rules. You can just take those out. It's not a huge deal, because there's a lot of game still in there. I would totally recommend. I was blown, like, by how good this game was without knowing anything. Remember when I told you to get the game? I was like, I'm just gonna.
Hmm.
It's Team G. It's on sale. I just want to try it out because it's TMG,
Okay.
and they are out of business. The only that was the only purpose I had with this game. But
Okay.
wow, Formosa T is such a good Euro game and thematic as well. Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. I don't know that I'm going to seek that one out, but I probably would try it if circumstances were right.
I mean, you can you can play with me.
Very well.
All right.
Those might be
So,
good circumstances.
oh yeah. Anyway, let's get to another topic, which is Cult of the Old. And in Cult of the Old, we talk about the games that are at least 5 years old.
Okay.
And Kyle, let me see what's mine.
Oh.
But what's yours? Tell me
Okay.
yours
So
first.
mine is a game that recently was reprinted, and so that's why I'm thinking about it again. But it's a game I played a lot back when it came out in 2012, I think, which is Libertalia. It's
Um,
also a sort of historical theme. So it's a game. The thematic element is pirates on a crew that are looking for treasure, trying to save for their own retirement.
but
And
should I
uh, show the old one. That's
the
what we're
old one?
talking about here.
Okay.
Honestly, the differences between them are largely the artwork. There are new cards and things. I mean, the new version has inferior artwork, unfortunately. But so what you're doing though is you start with a hand of everyone has the same number of cards and the same cards, right? You've got a deck. I think in the old one it was like 1 through 30. In the new one, I think it's 1 through 40. But one person's going to shuffle up the cards and choose a certain number at random. Everyone else is going to find those cards. And so you start with identical hands. Each round, you're going to play one card face down. Everyone does that simultaneously. You flip them up and you put them in order
Mm-hmm.
from lowest rank to highest rank. And then you're going to go left to right, lowest to highest, and activate their abilities.
Yeah.
Then you'll go highest to lowest and activate other abilities and also claim treasure. And so what's happening through these abilities is sometimes you're manipulating the order, sometimes you're changing what's out available for treasure, sometimes you're just flat out killing the other person so they get nothing, right? It's a lot of sort of manipulating what's in your hand and knowing what other people have. Then in the second round, you're going to keep the cards you didn't play and you're going to draw new ones. So as the game goes on,
Mm-hmm.
your hand becomes a little bit different from what other people have. And so it's a really interesting game. It was fun back in the day. I have not played the old version in a long time, but the new version has the same rules, largely the same things. It has a few improvements, actually, but it's largely the same game. It's really interesting. It's held up very well. It's been out of print forever, so having the new version around makes it much more available. I was delighted when I tried the new version, so it's a game that's held up really well.
So I played it a long time ago and I didn't like it. Um,
Ah,
I mean, it was okay, but I don't remember what exactly. But something bothered me, some too much randomness or something like that. It was just a chaos in a sense. That's what I remember. But to be honest, I don't remember exactly what happened then. You know, I just never got to it. I just
yeah. Well,
though selecting the roles is something I like. You know that. So
well, maybe you should try the new version. I mean, I don't. If you hated the old version or did
might.
not or strongly didn't like, this won't change your opinion. It does not really change very much about the game at all. But maybe your the way you approach
Mm,
the chaos may have changed over the years.
yeah, might be also the taste and then how I approach games, etc. I might just it might just been a bad day, and now I might like it much more. That's how it is. So all right, so is Libertalia for Call of the Old? My Call of the Old is a game that I looked at. I was like, oh,
Is
I
it
remember.
Formosa Tea?
No, I remember I liked this game, but I don't remember anything about how this game was played because it was so dry. But still, I remember it being a good game, and that's Steam Time.
Ah,
Yeah, from
Steam Time.
Cosmos. And yeah, it's you collect crystals and do some stuff and do the contracts, and there was some weird mechanism of time, not travel, but something manipulation, stuff like that. I,
Sort of.
so I don't remember. I just remember being it being a good game. So,
Yeah, it's a good one.
my count of the old is the game. I don't remember Steam
Huh.
Time.
Well, maybe it's time to go back and try it again.
Yes, yeah, that's it's really good Dorn, and it's Cosmos, so it's a good combination.
All right, there you go.
It says it's the year race, whatever. Yeah, yeah. Steam Time,
Yeah.
good, good game.
What I
But
remember about the game was, just sort of to give a little context, is it's action selection, but the actions move up and back, and so that you're going to go top to bottom, but the as the game goes by, the different actions are going to move to different positions. So the order in which you're able to select things and resolve them ends up being a little bit different.
yeah. Anyway, let's get to the next topic, which is
All right.
funky components. So,
Okay.
tell me, Kyle.
So mine is a game that arrived just yesterday. Well, 2 days ago. It's this is a ridiculous component. The game is called Titan, and we're looking for the 2022 version, not the really old version, which is a
Okay.
different game entirely.
Okay. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
I've seen that.
so this game has the board on this game is this huge 3-tiered plastic monstrosity. It's about 2-inch diameter, or sorry, 2-foot diameter. It's a huge plastic thing, and it's made in these 6 wedges that kind of come apart so that you have a hope of putting it back in the box. Now, this is totally unnecessary. Um, the game is about, I mean, really all it is to show the 3 layers, and because you're going from one layer to the next, and then there's that center region, and this could have been done with a board. Instead, though, you've got this enormous plastic thing, and let me tell you, this thing is a huge pain. First of all, when you punch it out, so like if you're like me, I punch everything out and then kind of figure out what to do with it. Then you open the rules, and then sort of hidden somewhere it says put the 3 boards from each punch sheet on one wedge together. And so then you're trying to go online and figure out which ones to put together on each slice of the pie.
Mm-hmm.
But physically fitting it together is really obnoxious. It does not easily snap together or come apart. And then there are these back walls sort of around it that you have to take out and put on each and every time. And and they are a pain to slide out too. I mean, the components are nice. There's those little bases. They're really nice. They have a nice aspect to them. They hold the resources, tell you what goes there. The colors are clear. You've got these pipes. That's those cylinders you see lying around. But the pipes have to be facing a different way. They've got like these arrows on them, and the direction of the arrow matters. And they're not that easy to see. I liked the game the one time I played it, but there are definitely. I think this game may have needed an editor to kind of pull back some of the ridiculousness of this. That board is going to prevent me from ever wanting to play the game because it's such a pain to set up. And it takes up so much space. It's a huge circle, so there's not really even a way you can position it in your table because it's always going to take up the same amount of space. I am interested to play the game again, but it is, and the box, obviously, I think you would be surprised, would not be surprised to learn that the box is enormous. I have some mixed thoughts about Titan. I really like the concept. I think the game is pretty solid. I just wonder if it needed to be produced that is not the box. Um, that is a
No, I
postcard.
just that was really
um,
cool. Would have been a really cool joke.
yeah, yeah, a micro game. I just wonder if some of the funky components of the game. There you go. That's a better a better perspective of how huge this thing is. I wonder if some of the funky components of the game might get in the way of people enjoying it.
Okay, got it. Yeah, mine is no. This one I saw. This one looks really cool, and that's where I have this kind of perception, or let's say I'm cautious about such games as they tend to be all blink and all this kind of a gimmicky gamery stuff. I mean, not gamery, but kind of a toyish, the toy factor in it. That I'm always afraid they're not enough as games. And so far, when I've tried such games, they've never been enough. I mean, yes, the toy factor is there. Uh, it's cool the first time. It's not cool the second time. So, but kudos for them for trying something new and different and
Yeah,
chunky. So yeah.
but I don't
Anyway,
know that. I mean, the board isn't really even a very fun toy. It's just large. I mean, snapping it together is a pain. I cut my hands up. It was
uh, uh
it was there are definitely some issues
so
here.
you say you
I,
were in pain while
I was
assembling.
putting it away. Was actually putting it together was okay, right? It's pushing down, but then separating those plastic tabs, they really stick in, and you really have to push. And then when you push, it finally releases, and you cut your hand. Um, I don't know.
Hmm.
I wish that a different approach had been taken. I wish that somebody had said, "Good idea, but," and suggested just using a cardboard board. But hey, maybe some people will love it. And I am definitely going to bring it out the next time I've got some people over who might enjoy it. It's just, I don't know how often I'll be willing to do that because it's such a pain,
Yeah.
literally and figuratively.
All right. So mine is easier to put together. It's also a kind of a board. It's also a board, my fun component, but it's much easier because the board is a box, and it's from Volt. You remember Volt?
Oh, yeah.
And
I only ever played Old Volt. The New Volt is the one with the weird box.
yeah, this one, as you can see here. So the box is basically the board, and you put these cardboard pieces to the sides, which are like the screens or whatever they are.
Hmm.
So it just looks really cool. Like you don't have to do much. You just you stick it together. Here it's not the best shot, but you can see here maybe, and it's easy. You put some of the, I think, the initiation tokens, whatever, uh, and etc. So yeah, it's such an easy way to implement the board and the arena at the same time. I think that's always a good idea. So my funky component is the Volt board.
All right. There you go. Yeah, I only ever played Old Volt, so I don't know. I don't know that I've used the funky components, but I have seen them.
All right, so here we are with the funky components, and let's get to the topic of the day, which is
Okay,
top 10 historical games.
very well.
And so, yeah, look, uh,
Uh
no. For my own
oh.
list, everything's fine. For my own list, what I did is, so first of all, anything which is historically mythical, like in a sense, like the myths of ancient Greece and the Camelot and etc. I try to avoid them
Oh.
because anything that has, like, for example, Paleo as well. Paleo is a historical game, but I didn't put it on the list. Spoilers, because it has some magical things going on in there. So anything that had this magical element in it, I just didn't put on the list just for my own whatever. I just first of all I wanted to put the list together with the games that I don't usually put on the list. Try to avoid the same old. Everything's the same. Every list that we do, the kind of our favorite games always fit into every list. So it's
Not true.
oh sure.
Well,
Did you
especially
put your
this
Summoner
list.
Wars there?
Summoner Wars may find its way onto the list. We'll see.
No, but yeah. So this is the first thing. Anything that has if it has some magical elements, gone. I do not touch it. If it also for my kind of this is my own decision. The civilization building games or civilization themed games, I also try to avoid for the reason. But yeah, if you put them on the list, that's totally fine. These are historical games. I didn't want to put them on the list because this is the whole different genre for me, like civilization themed games, and we might do another list of civilization themed games. Exactly,
Oh, good. We
that's
can talk about them again.
yeah. That's where I felt, and also how did I put the list together? I tried to put the list based on it might not be my the number one game, might not be my favorite game, but it's how much of a history or how much of a theme I felt in it, which was like a real history, something like that. So that's how I
Okay.
put my list together. So yeah.
So I kind of approached similar things. I tried to do games that were about the history or the historical thing that's happening, not games where a historical theme was just sort of draped on top. So this isn't my top 10 beige games. It's I did not follow all of the guidelines that you seem to have
I know it's
followed.
your number one.
Well, that one won't be a surprise. That one is very much on brand for this list, though. So I don't know. I did try and talk about games that were about the history or historical events. I tried not to have it be my top 10 war games because it seems that most historical games tend to I don't know, coalesce around those particular wars. But some of them do. I guess we'll have to see how how well it does here.
Yeah. Let's just get on to it. Let me see. Where's my list? Okay, I got it. And to be honest, these are the games. Okay, some of the games are there that you have seen before or heard before. But
Yes,
I mean, like
several of them.
from several lists. But some of them are. I try to, be unique in this list
All
here.
right. Mm-hmm.
Let's get to number 10.
Okay.
Ooh. All right.
My number 10 is a game I talk about every time I do my top 100, but not as often other than that. This is a game that I really like in concept, but I've only ever played a few times because it's so difficult to get to the table. The game is called Here I Stand. So,
Mm-hmm.
Here I Stand is about the Reformation Wars, and you need exactly 6 players for this game to work. And the players are going to take the role of different civil or empires or entities at the time. The most
Mm-hmm.
interesting is the papal states and the reformationists, and so the Reformationists are trying to spread the gospel of the Reformation, and the papal states are trying to keep Catholicism in Europe. And then you've got the English who are trying to work out the succession and trying to have Henry the Eighth have an heir. And then you've got the Spanish who are kind of offset against the Austrians, and or no, maybe the Austrians and the Spanish are the same. because it was part of the same empire at that time. And then they're set off against the Ottoman Empire. That's right. And then
Mm-hmm.
the French are sort of competing with the English, trying to interfere with their succession. So you've kind of got two factions against two factions against two factions, but they're all working together in different ways. It's going to be the kind of Twilight Struggle type game where you have event cards that are historical events, and they have a number on them, and you can play them for their event or for their action points. That's the simple version of the game. The real version is very complicated. There are lots of very intricate rules that are not intuitive at all. It takes a really long time even to set up. So it's a game that the history really lives and breathes. And if you're trying, if you have 5 other people who know how to play the game already and are not bothered by the fact that it looks terrible,
Mm-hmm.
Here I Stand is a really good historical game with a lot of history, just and a very
Mm-hmm.
interesting part of history that's just under
Mm-hmm.
the surface, looking to be explored.
No, I don't want to stand there. No, not
Well,
for me.
I'm not surprised.
All right. So my number 10. Why did my list go away? My number 10 is so you are more into this kind of historical battles, and I like music. So I was enamored to try out the game that was about the classical music composers, and that's Symphony number 9.
Okay.
And so also not a great looking game, as you can see. Uh, so
Ooh,
beautiful. My God, so many,
cubes.
not only cubes, also tiles and cubes. So yeah. So, but this game is all about. So you are a patron trying to donate uh, and invest into composers, basically claiming their works as they work. So basically, you can claim the ownership, and you want to become the greatest the patron. But the thing is, so basically, these cubes are like resources. As you take them off, the composers become more prestigious, less prestigious, etc. But eventually, if you take out the last cube out of a particular composer's track, he dies. So basically, you worked him to death. So, so you have to be careful about that. And your usual hero, you get some points for whatever. Like for certain tracks, there are tiles attached to the tracks, which tell you, how you get the points, etc. But there is some history in there, like it is kind of like a the curse. Various composers writing their ninth symphony, and then that's it. So I don't know. It just clicked with me. It's all about the classical music, and you kind of feel a little bit. It's only number 10 because it's still a dry Euro game, but you kind of feel like you're pushing the composers to work harder, and then eventually, like with Mozart, you just push them too hard. You can see
Okay.
Handel, Bach, Haydn, Mozart, Beethoven, and Schubert here. So all of your, let's say, a
Also known
baroque.
as red, yellow, green, blue, purple, and brown.
Yeah, it's a baroque classical. Say
Sure.
the rise of, not the rise of polyphony. It came earlier, but Beethoven already scratching the itches of romanticism, and Schubert going all the way romanticism. So yeah, hmm Symphony number 9 is
Okay.
is a cool, cool like a cool theme in a game.
Sure.
Different.
I
Okay,
agree.
let's get to number 9.
Let's go.
Ooh. I should have put Symphony number 9 onto my number 9 spot.
Yeah, you really should have thought of that.
Yeah. I'm not a cliche like all the others, and like.
Okay. So, my number 9 is another game that I talk about infrequently, and I'm convinced I'm the only person in the world who likes this game. Um, but it is a very interesting historical theme. The theme is, of course, the Holy Roman Empire,
Hmm.
and the game is In the Shadow of the Emperor. So,
Mm,
this is a game about kind of the electoral system for deciding the Holy Roman Emperor
okay.
back in the days. The artwork hasn't aged very well, uh, but it's really interesting because what you're trying to do is put your people in the right spots so that when there's a vote for emperor, you can elect one of your guys rather than one of the other guys. It's not really a political game, but it's sort of about manipulating who is where and when. You're gonna, try and make people age. So you've got these tokens and they age. And when they age, eventually they'll die. And so you're trying to get other people to die right before the vote so that your guy is next in line and can step up. There's an interesting thing about having children where if you have sons, that's really great. And if you have a daughter, she can only be married off or sent to be a nun. And so, um, maybe not the most current sentiment, but interesting and historical. And the whole
Yeah.
childbirth mechanisms, drawing cards to see if you get the blue one or the pink one. Um, different states need different requirements for people to be in power. For example, there's some that require you to be married, some that require you not to be. The game, look, again, just like Here I Stand, it's not a looker. But it really doesn't feel like anything else. It's an area control game that does area control very differently, and I find it to be very fascinating. It's one that I'm always kind of looking to play, but because of how it looks and how old it is, it's not one that jumps off
Mm,
the shelf very often. But when it
mm-hmm.
does, it definitely has the history there, and it's a nice way that it's kind of implemented everything, and it's an enjoyable game. In the Shadow of the Emperor. Also, it's a pretty cool name,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
and I think you're looking
It's
forward to playing this, right?
yes, sure. It's Rio Grande Games as well, which
Well, I mean, I'm sure they brought it in from somebody else, but
hmm
look, this is not one that's going to win you over by
they
your
never
card.
do. They hardly do games that look good or have good production. Um, anyway, it's
Okay,
my personal grudge with them. I don't like that
and
company.
I understand.
All right, so my number 9 is where is my number 9? Here. My number 9 is a
Is
game
it
we
simply number
already.
9 again?
No, it's the game we already talked about, so I'm just gonna mention it once more, and it's Formosa T. So
Oh,
yeah, the thing is, I mean, the theme is there, and the theme is historical, and the cool part about that, which why did I put it? It has some things in the rule book, like it explains the special ability people they have the real historical kind of value to them, and the other thing is the events, the cure. They have different where years on them, like for example here, yes, and it shows like it's something happens, so there's the expert, and in this time this happened, and at that time this happened, these little facts, and as you read them they kind of make sense, they're historically accurate, so or most likely accurate. So I just like that,
okay,
how the whole thing came together, and I felt like this is the history, and through this
sure,
small flavor text, it's having a flavor text is always a good idea, I think, when you make a historical game. So
sure.
my number 9, not a symphony number 9, but a Formosa T.
Very well.
The ninth Formosa tea.
Got it.
The last cup. Okay. Anyway, let's get to number 8
Let's go.
before it gets too late. Mhm.
Did you prepare for this list by drinking?
Tea, only tea.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
So
Yeah.
we're on number 8. My number 8 is a game that's not really historical. It's prehistorical. And it's a game
Right,
you
right.
already said would not be on your list, but this is Paleo. Um,
Mm.
I
I'm
actually thought that
I'm
it
fine with
brought
it.
the theme quite nicely. The sort of
Yeah.
prehistorical, I don't know what the names of the period, Neolithic, Paleolithic, whatever lithic. But we've got these people that are kind of working, exploring, trying to survive things. The way it all, I mean, there's a lot of discovery. There is some mythical stuff, but not really, right? I mean, it's a lot of that's some of the later scenarios, like the what is it,
Mm,
the wrath of the fire god or something, which is
ah,
from the expansion. But largely, it's about sort of going through a scenario. All right, we've got wolves, and it's really cold, and so what
mhm.
are we going to do? We've got to kind of go through and figure out, okay, we've got to build these tools to fend off the wolves. We've got to get this stuff to keep the fire going. And you're going through these decks and slowly learning about what's in there and trying to be better on your second run. And so, look, the theme might not come across quite as well in terms of I'm going to learn something, right? I mean, I'm not going to learn about who Martin Luther was through this game. That would also be thematically inappropriate. But I think the historical setting really comes across nicely, and I find the game to be quite charming.
Mhm. Yeah, I thought about that one. It just, if I discard some of the games that have some magic in them, then I kind of discard all the others. So
Okay.
just my own thing. It's the same as like the Camelot thing. It's I mean,
Camel
some
Up,
of
that would not be on my
Camelot.
historical. Oh, I thought you said Camel
Sir
Up. I was
Camelot.
thinking that wasn't going to be on my historical list anyway.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, because yeah, King Arthur, etc.
I did
Because
leave those out because those are a lot of legend, right? I thought about Joan of Arc as well, but there's a lot of sort of dragons and stuff in that. There isn't really in this one. I mean, there's you can
mm,
eat the mushroom and get high and have
okay,
a vision, but
mm, all right, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I'm totally fine with that. I would have put it in my list,
okay.
but yeah, let it be. Let it go. Um, my number 8 is a historical game, and it seems like I'm trying to get some controversial themes in here, but and it well to be honest, it came out during the period when it was totally controversial, and the publisher uh, donated to the greater cause. So Messina is the one, because it's plague, it's pandemic during
Oh, Messina.
the
You know that it's historical if it has a number in the title.
yes. I thought it's my copy was just numbered, but well,
Very well.
here you go. Everybody had the same numbered copy. I'm
Yeah, I mean, this
trying.
is this is. I don't know what's so controversial about the plague. It happened. Um,
Yes, that's the thing. So for me, I think acknowledging that something happened and something bad as well is gonna move us forward and then make us smarter in the long run. I mean, like if there are some things, controversial things that happened a long time ago, as you said in the Holy Roman Empire game. Yeah, so as you
mhm.
said that the women only went to be married or
Nuns or
nuns,
wives.
etc. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
it's
it's
true.
something we
That's the
need
way
to
it was.
acknowledge to say
Uh
that
huh.
it was wrong at that time, that we need to do better nowadays. It's so important, and I think canceling such games or this kind of a cancel culture of all the things, I I don't think it's good. I think we need to acknowledge. And this game is not doing any bad stuff to the kind of a theme or the topic. It's you're trying to save people actually. And in this game, it's a hero game. You put the workers down, and then eventually the worker placement becomes a worker movement game where you move on the different tiles, you activate them, get them resources, or you fight the plague with the fire. You get the people out, you put them into quarantine zones and make them work. Eventually, they come out, and you put them into this abstract boards where you move around some discs in order to activate those people and get some specialties and things. And it's a usual Euro game. Uh, get the points to do this, and there's ships moving in all the time, bringing plague all the time. So that's how it is, and it's historical and it feels historical. So
Great.
Messina 1347, which I will never remember. I'll just say the 14th
Is it
century of
47 or
Messina.
49?
47, yeah. I'm just always gonna say Messina, the 14th century. It's at least I'll remember that.
Okay. Very well.
Let's get to
Yeah, I like
number
Messina.
7.
Okay.
Seems good.
Alrighty, my number 7. So there's kind of a series of games that fits here. I only picked one, but there are a couple others that could easily have taken this slot. I took the one that's the most historical, and that is Pandemic: Fall of Rome.
Mm-hmm.
So other than basic Pandemic, right, there was this, for a time, a series of kind of spin-off games that included Iberia and included, I guess, the Rising Tide, and included even Legacy Season 0 is a historical theme. But Fall of Rome is sort of the easiest one to fit in thematically. What you're doing, rather than spreading and curing disease, is there's all these various Germanic tribes that are moving out onto the board and trying to mess things up for the Romans, and you're trying to either get rid of them or form an alliance with them, which means that then they can still be problematic, but you can also you don't have to get rid of them to win the game. And so you're sort of you're balancing between kind of keeping your soldiers out on the board and keeping these tribes in check, because unlike regular Pandemic where you could just remove cubes, you got to have your soldiers in the area to fight these people, and you're doing so, rolling dice and things, but you're still sort of collecting the kind of pandemic-y card sets, and there are different numbers of each color card. It's a very different type of a puzzle than regular kind of garden variety Pandemic, but it's really interesting. It has a lot of the kind of historical nature of that, sort of this time when the Roman Empire is being invaded and trying to manage all of its neighbors. I think it really, really does quite well. I don't assume that you have played this one, but
No.
definitely it's a nice departure from, in fact, all of the ones in this series are a nice departure from the basic Pandemic structure that do things in a new and different way.
Okay. All right. So my number 7 is another theme that is more controversial in.
Oh no.
Yeah, I mean, especially in U.S. history, but yet again, we have to acknowledge, and Empire's Age of Discovery, which I also, it's colonialism, but here it's not on such a grand scale. I mean, I don't know how much you feel it, but this game overly is a worker placement game
It is.
where you discover the lands unknown, discovering the new continent, and also let's say the different nations are trying to populate the new continent and the different. This is the new world map. This is the different map, but but the worker placement works with various workers, and they are of different value, but of different functions. So basically, they when they get to the land, it's area control. Then they're
Hmm.
just one piece, you know.
Yep.
But as you put them onto the different brackets here on the right side, these are worker spots. So some of them are better at let's say collecting goods. Some of them are better at building the buildings, which should give you special abilities. Some of them are better at going into the discovery to discover new lands, etc. They're also soldiers. This is my least favorite part is having the soldiers, but the whole engine building, having those different people out there, different workers which work differently, where and when and what you send, and the cool mechanism of you starting with 5 basic settlers, and if you want a more, you either buy buildings that give you constantly give you or produce you these extra workers like merchants, captains, etc., or you go into these spots which will grant you these workers, but just for one round. Then they go away because you use them up, and then you get your 5 basic settlers back. I like that idea. It's like getting your workforce, and then, but if you use them in a sense that you send them to the new world, they stay with you because they become an area control piece. So this is the area control where I don't mind the area control, which is not my favorite thing usually,
Okay.
but I like it here. Collecting the goods, which give you income each round, but eventually become uh, a chunky amount of points at the end of the game if you do it wisely.
Hey. Oh,
The take that stuff with the soldiers doing the war and the battles. It's with your area control. That's how it is. If you play with the right people, they tend not to do that much. It
okay.
depends. It depends on the crowd. Some of them really want to, and there are some of the so all of these different expansions and promos of different nations which have special abilities. Some of them are broken, which I just leave out. Some of them are fine. For example, there was a Turkish Empire, something like that, which your soldiers are your missionaries, something like that, and it was
Hey.
completely broken, completely
Sounds
broken.
amazing.
Yeah, I hate that. Just put it away. They didn't burn it yet, but put it away. Yeah. Anyway,
All
Empire's
right.
Age of Discovery, a historical game, and if we take out the controversial theme, it's mechanically or mechanism
It's a
wise
good game.
a really interesting game. Yeah, really like it. It's, as you might know, it's one of my favorite games of all time.
It is. It frequently shows up on your lists. And I
Not
probably
not
would have
as
bet
much.
money that it would have shown up on this one. So,
I know what's your number one,
oh, I
but
think, yeah, I think that would be a safe bet.
yeah,
Um,
can you bet what's my number one?
I might have an idea, but we'll see when we get there.
Yeah, but you'll say it before, and then I will reveal. You'll be surprised.
Okay.
Anyway, let's get to number 6. All right.
All right. My number 6 is a game that we already talked about because it's Messina, and it is 1340 something or other. I also thought largely the same things you talked about. It's an interesting look at a time period that's done quite nicely. And yeah, I like Messina a lot, and I like the way that the
So,
history is handled here. We don't need to talk
yeah,
about it much more.
yeah. Sorry, I was like, we already talked, so I shouldn't show it, but I'll
It's
just
okay.
show it once
I,
again.
I
Messina,
talked about it very quickly.
take a look at it again. All right. So where's my number 6 here? Let's get back. And my number 6 is the game that you see on my lists frequently. Uh, but to be honest, I really feel like it's a historical game. It's also an adventure game, and That's the last expedition.
I'm shocked.
Look, for example, if it no, but it is a historical game because when I played this game, so I was like, was it inspired by something? It was inspired by the Lost City of Z. There is a movie, Lost City of Z, which is not
Very
totally
good.
accurate because
Oh.
they don't know the exact. It's. I don't think it's 100% accurate, but it's about a people who are searching for the lost city of Z, and then they get lost eventually. And then I went to look into the history of all of that. The real people, I don't remember the names. There were real expeditions, and these were the real characters. Not these exactly, but these are like made up. But and they were trying to find the lost city of Z, whatever the golden city, and
Mm-hmm.
they had a different like diseases while they were doing that. People got killed, lost, etc. And
Woohoo!
they had to fight a different. Yeah, they had to all this kind of a jungle craze and jungle danger in it. So, and in here, yes, you're trying to survive, and what they did there, they tried to survive really, and they uh, they also met tribes. Some of them were friendly, some of them were not friendly at all, etc. So all of this is historical, and this game is based on the Lost City of Z history.
Okay,
So,
there you go.
but it's a cooperative puzzle game as well. But
Yes, it is.
the thing is, I feel thematic. It's where I go through this jungle, I feel like I'm surviving, and when I eventually get when we win, we get to this city of Z. We finally found it, and there was like this thematic moment where basically it means you lost the game. So we're on the second to last card. Like if you get to the last card, you win immediately. And so the only way how we could get into the city was to use one of the cards which gives you movement, but basically gives you a wound or kills you at the same something like that, kills one of your characters. And it was our last character, so we made the thematic choice, like he was crawling to that last city of Z while dying at the same time. So he reached it and died and never got to tell anybody else that he found it. So it's very thematic. So
There you
yeah.
go. It's
Yeah.
very thematic. The history just really sparkles off this game.
Let it be.
All
Let it
right.
go, Kyle. Let it go. Let's get to number 5.
Okay. Ooh, righty. My number
At least,
5 is.
at least I'm trying.
I'm glad you're trying. Um, my next game is a game about a particular time period, and the historical aspect is, first of all, it's a historical time period, and also sort of the way that it looks and the way things work around together. Now, look, it's been romanticized a little bit in modern TV shows, but the game is called Obsession, and
Hmm.
it's about this sort of I think it's the Victorian time period in England, when these families are trying to do their best to kind of put on their best show for everybody else.
They're
It's a
obsessed.
nice, well, yeah. Look, the title is kind of dumb, but it's a good title. But the game itself is a really interesting one. Of you're trying to put on events that are going to attract the most people, so that you have the most prestige, so that you can marry your family member off to one of this
Hmm.
wealthy family in town.
Ooh.
But it's a really interesting way that you're using. You've got this staff, and the staff is able to, these different events require different types of staff members, but once you've used them, they're kind of frozen up there for a little while, so you might have to go and hire some new ones. Or if you invite people to tea in the garden too many times, they get bored by it, and it's worth less and less. So the game, I initially overlooked it because it doesn't look great, to be honest. but
Yeah.
it's got a little bit of interesting deck building going on in there. It's
Hmm.
got all these nice old timey portraits. It's got this sort of classic costume drama theme, and it does the historical time period right. It's a really interesting look into that in a board game form.
Yeah. I've never played this one. That's something I would like to try because people say it's a good game. I don't
I
like how it
think you might
looks.
be
It looks
surprised.
terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's very functional. I'll say that. A lot
Mm. Hmm.
those
Hmm.
tiles
Hmm.
look really bad, but they're really very functional, and they kind of take a lot of they sort of streamline the game experience, so they're not as bad when you're using them as they may look.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's hope for the best. My number five is another game where, as I said, flavor text is really important for me. It adds so much value to the historical nature to the game of the game. And this game is all about learning some history because as
Uh-oh.
you play the game, which is not as thematic or somewhat thematic, you read the flavor text and become acknowledged by the different facts from the history, and it's ancient Egypt and it's Valley of the Kings. It is, but Valley of the
Okay.
Kings is a historical game. It has, as you can see here, the different, let's say, mm, facts about these collections. But this is a deck building game in a sense. Deck building games are not as thematic. Here, though the little bit of theme is that you entomb cards. So, cool part about this game mechanically is that you are entombing cards in a various tomb, so you can score them. So, whatever is left in your deck doesn't score you pointed in the game. But if you entomb something, you can have basically you buried it. You cannot use it. So that's a cool part when on what you bury because you are trying to collect sets. The cards might be powerful, might give your usual deck building, shuffle, take 5 cards, buy new cards. They have actions on them, they have gold value. You can buy new cards, etc. But if you use those cards during the game, they're really great. But then eventually you have to put them out there or bury them for set collection, and you want to collect different kinds of the same set. For example, there are priests, there are like paintings, let's say, there are sarcophags, weaponry, pottery, whatever there are, different collections, and you get the multiple points for such collections in the tomb. So, but yeah, as I said, it's a cool theme. I like ancient Egypt as a theme overly. I didn't put Kemet on my list because it's way too magical for that sense. It's
Way
myths.
too magical. That's
Yeah,
pretty good.
it's a magical game. But here, this one brings a lot of history through the flavor texts and the presentation, the graphics, especially the
Hmm.
older version had some cool graphics. I mean, this one looks more polished. It's better, bigger cards, but I was fine with the older version as well.
Okay.
And it's as the designer is the Tom Clever he's the historian. I think he's the uh I don't remember. Like he's obsessed with ancient Egypt and stuff like that, as I remember. Like he knows that really well. Engineering
Okay.
professor, but yeah, something like that.
Engineering professor.
But no, I mean, like I heard that he is
That
really
doesn't
into
exactly make me think
ancient.
history, but
Well,
okay. Very
overly
well.
he is. I think it's the only game he made. I don't know. I mean, like it's the
Well,
only published game he made, Valley
okay.
of the Kings. So not really a designer. But all right, let's get to number four.
Number 4. number 4. We've already said that if there's a number in the title, a date in the a year in the title, that it's automatically historical. And well, what? No, this is a bad pick. Come on. This game is about a time period. It's about 1 year, but it's sort of about a couple of years, kind of around the beginning of the 1990s. The game is 1989, Dawn of Freedom. So
Okay.
this game is about kind of the collapse of the Soviet Union and kind of the way that the different republics are breaking away. And
Mm-hmm.
so one player is kind of the forces of Western democracy, and one player is kind of the old party line that's trying to hold on to power as long as possible, whereas the Western the democracy player is trying to go in as quickly as possible. And so throughout the game, the different countries are going to slowly open their borders to more Western ideas, right? And you're going to start with mostly Hungary, and is going to kind of be the first one, and then and Poland, and then eventually Romania is going to kind of open up, and Bulgaria and East Germany, and you're playing these historical events and trying to use their sort of the event to influence the game in a way that's going to be interesting for you and going to work out for you. Now, this game will feel a lot like maybe Twilight Struggle in how the card play works, but it's actually a fairly different game. Even though lots of the rules are kind of similar, when scoring happens, you stop and you play kind of a trick-taking game for a few minutes, which is a weird little departure. You're playing these cards and you're trying to take over the government either through peaceful petition or through a riot in the streets. And so it's an interesting way that you're using these spaces you control. They give you different advantages once you get into the trick-taking phase. But you'll see each card has a picture of some historical event and some kind of short mention about what it is in flavor text. And then it comes with a book where you can look up each and every card and see what the actual historical context of the card was if you want to learn more. I know kind of the broader story of the Cold War a lot better than maybe I know all of these individual countries, although some of them are still names we hear today, right? I mean, there's a card about the Fidesz, which has been the ruling party in Hungary for many years. So it all kind of started in this 1989 timeframe. Eventually, the wall's going to come down, and David Hasselhoff is going to have his New Year's Eve party, and there's a lot of ways for the game to end there. But it's really interesting how it incorporates the history into a real gamified version. And it's a great way to learn more about kind of an important time period. Now, the Baltics are not really handled directly. They're sort of off doing their own thing, as are kind of the Caucasus. But for example, there are events that happen in the Baltic countries that are going to influence these Central European countries as well. And so that's also an interesting way to kind of see how everything's fitting together in this very interesting political time period that happened in my life. And so it's always been kind of dear to me.
All right. Okay.
See, it's not a bad pick. It's a historical game.
It is.
It's not even a cheesy pick.
No, I was talking about my pick.
Oh no. Oh dear. Okay.
Oh dear.
I got my eyes ready to roll.
Yeah. As I said, flavor text is something to be reckoned with. Yeah. No, but it's a game about history, but more about collecting history. And really, that's where I learned quite a few things about and facts about.
Oh no.
Oh, hey, no. That's okay. That's museum.
Oh my goodness. Yes, very historical.
But it is. It's a set collection game. I know. Mechanically, it has some elements of history, but it's set collection game. You go, you grab those different cards, and then you put them out into your museum by spending the other cards. They're kind of a cool mechanism, and you can buy cards from the other players. You can add a lot of different expansions like archaeologists, which basically limit where you can take the cards from. Some certain extra special abilities and things you can grab as well. There's the black market expansion. There's the World's Fair, whatever expansion. You can add and mix and match all of various elements and modules into the game to make it. I think with the expansions, it's more interesting. But it is a historical game in the sense that you are collecting those different sets from different civilizations, the ancient civilizations, and there's a lot of that. There's no text on these cards. All of these cards are unique. There's not it's not like, oh, we're gonna put say Temple of Isis or the oil pressure machine, whatever, and then just slap on the picture we used on another card. It's everything's unique. Vincent Dutray did it,
Okay.
and it's accurate. It would be weird, to do the same pictures. So I like that how he basically pictured all the different historical values as items from the archaeological items on these, and they look really cool. And the flavor text underneath is because there's not much. When somebody else plays their turn, sometimes you just look at the cards and you read them. That's how I learned some things about some of the items and things and history. So I like that in games. I'm always pro
Okay.
flavor text in games, if it's not
Good.
in the way of playing the game.
Sure. Well, I'm still looking forward to my new version of this eventually, someday when it comes.
But you cannot argue it's historical game. It's historically themed game in a sense that it's about history. Whenever defined exactly. So
Yeah, that's true. As we can tell from your list.
museum is the art of history. So
Okay.
at least I didn't put paleo, and there's not only mushrooms. There's magic. Okay.
There's no magic in Paleo.
There
It's
is
just
magic.
dreams and visions.
Yeah, and monsters. Okay,
Bears.
let's get to number 3. Just to be sure, the last 3 I have, the top 3 I have, are all historical games.
Okay.
Like historical games, in the sense that
It's not
they
going to
take
be
place.
Scythe and Cyclades, is it?
As I said, know
Okay.
me. So, but Scythe,
All right.
I thought about Scythe, to be honest.
Yeah, I
But I'm
know you
like,
did.
it's alternative history. It's I would say it's science fiction kind of towards that kind of a thing. It's totally made up. So though it has some historical elements. Anyway,
Well, my number 3 is a historical game. Now, I did mention I was trying to avoid, my top 10 war-themed games, but there are a lot of good war-y games that are historical. It just sort of
War-y.
happens to work that way. And this is one of the best ones. This is Undaunted.
Undaunted.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Undaunted is a World War II themed game.
Let's see.
And I'm hoping that's the right. Yeah, that's the right one. Yeah, okay.
No, there are 3 sets now. I mean,
there
I
are
don't
2
know.
sets and an expansion for both sets called Reinforcements.
But what about the Stalingrad?
Oh, that one hasn't come out yet.
Oh, okay. So one.
So
One
there's
that
North
didn't come out
Africa
yet.
and Normandy. And Stalingrad is, I think, coming out, but it's not out yet as far as I know.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Anyway, the 2, and then Reinforcements is an expansion for both of the existing sets. So I would, you could take North Africa or Normandy. They're both largely the same. And it's a deck building game. And it's a very interesting deck building game because it's kind of like War Chest. It's probably the closest game to it,
Hmm.
in that you have these hand of cards, and you're using them,
Yeah.
to every time you use a card, it's going to let you activate the characters that are on the board, and they're represented by these tokens. And then once the characters get shot and are going to die, you have to take the cards permanently out of your deck. And so you're doing deck building while your opponent is is trashing your deck for you. And it's really interesting because you've got these different scenarios, and you're trying to do different objectives. Sometimes it's destroy all the other person's uh, soldiers, and sometimes it's to get to certain parts and hold them for different times. And you're not acting out specific battles, or it doesn't feel like you are. You're
Mm-hmm.
more trying to manipulate this deck building puzzle in an interesting historical way, using the various armaments that were around in World War II, and trying to just, there's lots of sort of background and story to learn that kind of steeps you in this history. It's a
Mm-hmm.
really good World War II game. Um, and it's a great deck building game as well. Good history coming all the way through. Lots of nice, interesting artwork. It looks great on the table. It's not hard to play,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just overall a really good game.
Hmm. Yeah. That's something. So it's from Osprey. It's deck building. Uh, I would like to try it. I haven't tried it yet, but because it's a two-player, one versus one,
Yes.
that's something like I don't need that many games for two players. PvP kind of a thing, and also it's
I
World
can't get
War.
enough of those.
Mm. It's World War as well, so I'm not as interested in it in kind of in a board game format. So yeah, but yeah,
I think you might really like it, though. It really
as a
feels
game,
different and
yes, yes,
special.
yes. That's
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying why I haven't gotten to it.
Oh, okay.
Because of the various aspects. It's with some games they click right away, like everything fits me. Then I'll get it as soon as I can. So
This picture looks like it's from the Reinforcements expansion, but that's
might
okay.
be. I don't know.
Oh, that is not part of the game. Neither is that cat.
You sure about the cat? Okay.
The cat does not come with the game.
Mm-hmm.
That would be
Ruin the
a
game.
problem. Probably would, if there was a
Anyway,
dead cat in the box. Um,
we're barely alive. Okay, no I'm kidding.
all right. What's your number 3?
So my number three, and as I said, I'm not usually into games that have a World War theme,
Oh
but
no.
this one does, and this one is all about the heat of battle, and this is D-Day Dice,
Okay.
the second
That's
edition.
not even a cheesy pick this time.
It's historical. It's about the battles of Normandy, etc. So, but this game is all about uh, so you have your troops and you have the dice. It's a Yahtzee game. You're trying to uh, roll the dice and get the right things on your dice. You lose people, you add more people, and you need special weapons and engineering stuff and some of the symbols to cross the minefields, etc. All of this stuff. It's just you're trying to progress your special die, your officer, whatever it is, the your your reinforcements, your army into the bunker and defeat the Germans in the bunker. And there are all the various scenarios. There's also expansions that make you the German and play as a German player, etc., versus the others. And it's just a fun dice chucking game of trying to, so should I go to the left or the right? But I cannot go because
Or straight
some
ahead.
straight ahead, yeah, some people will die. I cannot move here because I don't have this. And the thing is that the game makes you move because you cannot stay in the same spot for too long. If you stay in the same spot like basically rolling dice, trying to collect the resources, let's say people, etc., then eventually it will force you to move. And then when it forces you to move, it's always not at the right time when you want to. And then all of your people die. It's a hard game to win, but it's a
Sad.
cooperative game, and it's really cool. Just representing this kind of a battle when they get from the water onto the beach, and then but there's like there are all the different scenarios and things. So if you get with expansions, there's a ton of stuff you can play.
It's way too much stuff, actually.
Too much, yes. So
All right. Yeah, this is a good one.
let's get to number 2.
All right, my number 2. I know you said you were trying not to do civilization-themed games. I did not impose that rule on myself. I have one civilization-themed game on my list. It's in my number 2. It's probably an obvious choice for me, and that game is Through the Ages. So, Through the Ages, you're taking a civilization, namely, kind of a nameless civilization, and you're developing it and bringing it through the ages from sort of prehistoric times into modern times. You're
Mm-hmm.
using leaders from those time periods. You're using technologies from those time periods, developing them, buying them, improving them. You're using historical war techniques, and eventually they become obsolete. And so you've got to adapt and use new ones. It's a very interesting game. It's a difficult one to survive. It's the most civilization-y game that doesn't have a board, or you don't like have this people moving around that you see in lots of other games. Instead, you're really just trying to manage and get your people through different times, manage the resources they need, use what they've got, and build yourself up to be the best civilization you can, and make it all the
Mm-hmm.
way to the end. It's got a lot of history in here, and it's done through the way that things come up, the time that things come up, real historical events, or well, not events so much as although no, there are some, and wonders and people and things that are happening that really give you a nice sense of history as you're playing this game. It is
Mm-hmm.
not for the faint of heart, though. It's very long and difficult to teach and learn.
Yeah. Uh, with the thing, like the decision games are historical games in a sense, but for me, when I play them, like this one, when I played, it didn't give me any sense of history. In a sense, like, oh, this, I know these famous people, I know this thing, but it never gave me the flavor of history. It was all about kind of a building up, and Through the Ages is rather abstract for me, in a sense. Though I that's totally valid choice. It's just these are like, okay, impact of competition, and then an ability that happens, and doesn't make sense. It's okay, or maybe makes kind of a sense. I don't know if you can really drag it by the ears. It's no, it's that's why I took away. Also, that's the second reason I took away civilization themed games, because they they are its own genre,
They largely are. This one I
because it's
feel
not a
fits
political
the bill,
period.
though.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I
It's
tried not to put a lot of civilization games on
yeah.
here, but I did think this one, when I think of a historical themed game, this is one of the first one that comes to my mind. So that's
Hmm.
why it had to be on the list.
Yeah. Because if I would allow them, then it would be Imperium would be on my list. Uh, Gentes would be on my list. Then Patch History would be on my list instead of all
Well,
the others. So, but I
some of those are
I
more
was like,
historical.
okay, not yeah,
Uh,
not too many.
some
I
of those
just
would have been better choices.
But I mean, like, I just didn't want to put them on, like, to have
Okay.
half of my games be civilization building games. So,
Yeah. That's why I only have 10% of mine being.
hmm only 10. All right. So my number 2 is another historical game, and this is a more certain period of time. This is the Second World War, but it does not happen
Didn't you
on the
say you didn't like World War games? And then you put 2 on your list?
Yeah. No, this one is it doesn't involve battlefield, but rather a prison
Oh,
and how you
okay.
escape from that prison. Escape from Colditz is my number 2. And look, with Escape from Colditz, so Osprey Games republished this game, and it's a roll and move game. And it's design wise, mechanism wise, it's not the best. But as you can see, the reprint of the Osprey games, how they did that, and all the different boxes with some elements, historically, accurate elements on them, the med packs and things, and like there were small intricacies, small things that they did and added to the value of the history, to the value of the theme of the game. And when we played it, we really felt like, so the one player plays Germans, trying to keep the people in, and the others play the others who trying to like some, let's say, British forces who trying to not forces, but they're prisoners who trying to escape the prison. And for that they need to go here, do that, do this, and bribe here and do things, etc. And it's the game was made by the previous British officer who escaped Colditz, the prison of Colditz, so during World War II. So it has this kind of a history behind it. And when we played it, and we did the Blender episode for that as well, where we tried to say there that the sense of escaping was really emotional, and you felt like you are kind of there, you're trying, and they are chasing you, etc. So thematically, even though this game is kind of weak mechanically, it's so strong thematically. It's not
Okay.
something you would play every day. It's something you play, you put it away, and you take it out in a year, you play it again, you have the same great emotion. This is that kind of a game. So Escape from Cold, it's my number 2. As I said, these are now historical picks. I finally got it.
Okay.
So I don't know how you feel about that one.
I would have guessed that it was going to be on your list because you enjoy it quite a lot.
I enjoyed
look,
it. I mean, like,
this is fair. This one isn't as cheesy as some of the other ones have been. I mean, or did I say that?
At least I don't choose games that look like
Hey,
old
they're historical.
cheese. Old grumpy cheese. Okay, let's get to.
Okay.
Just move on. Nothing to see here.
All right.
Wave and smile.
Very well.
Let's get to number 1. So let me guess. Let me just write it down.
One.
It's T. It's
it does
W.
Start with a T. It does. It's about vampires.
Is it this one?
I can't. It's too small for me to see. But
Twilight Struggle. It is.
Oh yes, it is Twilight Struggle. How did you know?
I think everybody who knows you knows that you're going to put that one as your number 1.
I mean, this definitely fits here on this list, right? This is the most historical game that I can even think of, right? You're playing this epic saga of the Cold War. You start at the end of World War II and you end, when the wall comes down, right? It's you're taking one player plays the Soviet Union, one player plays the United States, and you're going for a subtle conquest. It's a war game, but it's a very subtle war. It's not about running out and fighting each other. It's about slowly influencing different places in order to be in the right position for when things happen. There's a deck of events, and they're divided into 3 sets, so different things will come out at different times. So you won't have Gorbachev elected in 1947. It'll be a natural progress through history. And then when the events come out, they're always terrible. No matter what you have, every card you have in your hand, 100% of the time is terrible in this game, and your
Mm-hmm.
opponent will think so as well, right? And so it's all about managing when, because you have control over when things are happening. And
Mm-hmm.
by sort of looking at what you've got, seeing what's coming up, you can prepare to make the most of what's going to happen. And occasionally, and then your opponent's going to do the same thing. I've heard it described as a game where you open the box and there are two sticks inside, and you simply hit each other with them for 2.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it can feel like that, but it's really
Mm-hmm.
exhilarating. It just, when you sort of kind of slightly pull ahead, or something's coming and you prepare for it just perfectly. And it looks like we have a comment from Korea. There we are. Um,
Mm-hmm. We're in Korea. What? No. Anyway,
uh-huh.
yeah.
And but and then you've got it's kind of like 1989, right? The two games share a lot of the same DNA. But with this one, you've got all these events, and then just like in 1989, you can pull out the rule book, or the separate historical fact book, and read the history of each and every one of these events. Right? You want to know what the quagmire is? Well, you can read it. That's essentially Vietnam, uh, and there are lots of different and you're going to learn about the Cold War and all of
Mm-hmm.
these large geopolitical events as you're playing it. I mean, you open the box and the history just jumps out and covers you. It is a
Cool.
fantastic game. It is not easy to learn at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it has got one of the highest learning curves of any game I've got,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of good, right? I mean, it's good that players who play it a lot are going to be better naturally. But when you're trying to teach it to someone else, you really have to. I mean, that first hand, you really got to play almost open, right? Like, okay, don't do this thing, right? There's a card in the game famously where if the Soviet player is in Japan, it just wipes them out, right? I mean, you lose all influence in Japan and give it to the United States player. So there's no point as the Soviet player going into Japan until that has been played. And so, that it's coming. And if you happen to get it, you can play it right away. And then that you're able to go in there now. I mean, there's a lot of that subtlety in here of knowing what's coming and figuring out how best to plan for it. It's a game all about planning, and knowing that things are not going to go according to that plan. I love Twilight Struggle. It's one of my very favorite games of all time. It always has been ever since the first time I played it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's one that every time I get a chance to pull it out again, I'm really excited because I love reliving this history and this experience, and it does it better than anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. Heard that.
It's it's not a
I,
surprise that I like
I've
Twilight
I've
Struggle.
heard I've heard that before. Yeah. So yeah. All right. Mm-hmm. So why don't you guess what's my number one?
Well, you've already put all the cheesy picks that I thought. I would have guessed it was going to be Empire's Age of Discovery, but that one's already been.
It's
So,
not as thematic. I mean, like as I said, my number one is not my favorite game, but I think thematically it's so like historically cool. It's very
mhm.
precise. It's a very unique theme, precise theme, and I give you the last hit. We did a blender on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not Flow of History, is it?
No, no, we never did the blender on
Okay,
that. Plus, it's civilization theme game,
I
so
thought you did. Okay, no,
it's
go
the
ahead and tell me.
it's the period where you had to stand in the queue in order
Oh,
to.
okay, yeah, got it. Yeah, I should have guessed that one.
It's Kolejka, yeah.
Okay.
So Kolejka is the queue in Polish. So it's a game about the queue. You stand in a queue, you put your meeples down, trying to get. It's a deficit. There's not enough goods for everyone, and you're trying to stay in the queue, trying
It's the
to get those
breadline
goods.
game.
You have your shopping list, yeah, and it's just and all these special cards you manipulate the queues with. It just historically so interesting. It was made for the museum as well, so and mechanically it's interesting. And if you get the expansion, you can bribe people with vodka. I'm like, it's accurate. I hope so. but it's the Soviet Union in a sense, a queue in the Soviet Union. So, and there are some facts and flavor text as well.
So you
So
both end up with the Soviet Union at number one.
that's where we've been born. That's how it goes. Anyway, this is Koleka, my number one pick.
Fair enough. That's not even cheesy.
I don't want to. There's not much to say about this game. It's so unique. You have to play it, and you have to see it for yourself.
And I agree. It's not the best game. It's an interesting game, but I do like the theme of it though, and I love the version I have came from Poland, and it came with like stickers that you had to put on the cards to make them in English.
Yes. I had the same, and there were like I had the game where it was like several stickers, like English, Spanish, Italian, whatever. It's just you put those, and it was really hard to get the expansion. When you go to the kind of a black market and you buy stuff for vodka, it's it's hilarious. And the crying baby and the queue and and political accusations, like you make accusations against that person, then the police comes and takes that person, puts him on the back of the queue, etc. It's and the queue, I like this where one card like makes the queue rotate 180 degrees, like rotate from like, so whoever was the last is the first now, and how you manipulate that. That's cool. Anyway, that's number one, Koleka, and
there you go.
That's basically it for today's episodes.
That is it.
Done. And I wouldn't say that it was very controversial, and so I don't know if
we both had our own definitions. That's fine.
Yeah, I don't know if we've done that before. If not, then we might do a civilization list separately.
Okay.
That might be cool. But I remember maybe we did that already, or maybe we did ancient.
I wonder what'll be my number one.
Summer Wars.
Well, that does fit on every list, but it would have been it might not have fit as well on this list.
It's not totally accurate historically. Anyway, thank you for watching. We'll see you another time. Have a good day.
All right, sounds good. Bye-bye.
Bye.